My name is Claire, and the day my grandmother died, I thought the hardest part would be learning how to live without her. I was wrong. The hardest part came 3 weeks later when my parents announced that my younger sister Emily was getting Grandma's house. We were sitting around my parents' dining table when Dad cleared his throat. Your grandmother's house will go to Emily. I looked at him. Why Emily? Mom immediately answered. Because she's starting a family, she needs the space. I almost laughed. I had been married for 5 years, I had 2 children, I needed space too, but somehow whenever my parents talked about Emily, her needs were always more important. Emily smiled across the table. Always loved that house. I forced a smile. I'm happy for you, and I meant it, at least I tried to. Grandma's house wasn't just a property to me, it was where I had spent every summer of my childhood, it was where Grandma taught me how to bake. It was where she kept old photographs, handwritten recipes and little memories from our family. But I didn't fight my sister for it, I simply asked my parents one question. Grandma leave a will? Dad looked away. Yes, I see it, Mom frowned. Why do you need to? Because I'd like to know what she wanted. Dad shook his head. There's nothing complicated, the house goes to Emily. I accepted that answer, until 2 days later, I received a message from Grandma's neighbour, Mrs. Collins. She asked me to come to the house. When I arrived, she was standing on the porch holding an old key. Your grandmother gave me this months ago, she said. I stared at it. What is it? She lowered her voice. She told me to give it to you if your parents ever gave the house to your sister. My heart started pounding. Why? Mrs. Collins looked toward the house. She said you would understand. I took the key. That evening I returned to Grandma's house. Emily hadn't moved in yet, the house was empty. I walked through the rooms slowly, remembering Grandma, then I noticed something strange. The key Mrs. Collins had given me didn't fit any door downstairs. I remembered something from childhood. Grandma's attic. She had always told us never to go up there without her. I climbed the narrow staircase. At the top was an old wooden door. I inserted the key. It turned. Inside there were boxes everywhere, old furniture, Christmas decorations, photographs, and in the center of the room was a small wooden chest. I opened it. Inside were dozens of letters, all written by Grandma, but they weren't addressed to Emily. They were addressed to me. The first letter began, Claire, if you're reading this, then something happened that I was afraid of. I sat down on the floor. Grandma explained that she had discovered something about the family years earlier, something my parents had never told me. The house wasn't actually hers, at least not originally. It had belonged to my great-grandfather. And before he died, he had placed the property into a family trust. The house was supposed to remain in the family, but there was one condition. The person who received the house had to maintain the property and preserve it for the next generation. Grandma had spent years paying the taxes and maintaining the house. Then she discovered that my father had been trying to sell it secretly. He wanted the money to help pay off debts. Grandma refused. According to the documents, Dad had no legal authority to sell the property, but there was more. Grandma had left the house to Emily only under one condition. Emily had to agree to the family trust. If she refused, the property would pass to me. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Then I found another envelope. This one contained copies of legal documents, and at the bottom was Grandma's handwritten note. Claire, I know your parents will tell you that Emily deserves this house more. Don't fight them, let the truth speak for itself. I stayed in the attic for nearly an hour. The next morning I called the attorney listed in the documents. His name was Mr. Bennett. He confirmed everything. Your grandmother created a very specific estate plan, he said, so Emily doesn't simply own the house. No, then why did my parents tell everyone she did? Mr. Bennett paused. That's something you should ask them. That afternoon, Emily called me. She sounded excited. I'm moving in next weekend. I asked her one question. Did you sign Grandma's trust agreement? There was silence. What trust agreement? My stomach dropped. I told her about the attic. She became angry. Claire, Mom and Dad told me Grandma left the house to me. Did? Then what's the problem? The condition. Emily didn't answer. I explained everything. She finally admitted that Dad had told her she could sell the house whenever she wanted. That was when I understood. My father wasn't giving Emily a home. He was giving her an asset he planned to help sell. The next day, all of us met at the lawyer's office. My parents arrived first. Emily sat beside them. Dad looked at me. What are you trying to do? Nothing. Then why did you drag everyone here? I placed Grandma's documents on the table. Because I think Grandma knew exactly what you were planning. Mom picked up the papers. Her face changed. Dad reached for them. He read the first page, then the second. Then he stopped. Emily looked confused. What does it say? Dad didn't answer. Mr. Bennett finally spoke. Property cannot be sold without complying with the trust. Became furious. That wasn't what your grandmother told us. Mr. Bennett looked at him. Your mother signed the documents herself. The room became silent. Then Emily asked the question nobody expected. Grandma leave the house to me because she wanted me to have it. Mr. Bennett nodded. Yes. Emily looked relieved. Then he continued. But she also wanted to make sure the property stayed in the family. Emily looked at Dad. "You told me I could sell it." Dad didn't respond. Her expression changed. For the first time she realized she had been used. She stood up. "I don't want it." Mom looked shocked. "What?" Emily shook her head. "You didn't tell me the truth." Dad tried to stop her. "Emily, sit down." She looked at me. "Claire, you should have it." I shook my head. "No. Grandma wanted you to have it if you were willing to protect it." Emily looked at the lawyer. "What happens if I refuse, Mr. Bennett explained that under the trust, the property would pass to me." Emily sat quietly for a moment, then she signed the refusal. "The house became mine, but I didn't celebrate because I finally understood what Grandma had been trying to protect. It wasn't the house, it was the family history inside it." Months later, I moved into Grandma's house with my children. I kept her kitchen exactly the same. Her old clock still hangs above the doorway, her recipes are still in the same drawer, and the wooden chest from the attic sits beside my desk. Sometimes I open it and read her letters. The last one is the one I remember most. She wrote, "Claire, never fight for something simply because someone else wants it. Fight for the truth when the truth is being hidden." My parents never apologized. Emily did. She eventually told me that she had always known Mom and Dad favored her, but she never realized how far they were willing to go. As for my father, he never tried to sell the house again. He couldn't, the trust prevented it. And years later, when my children were old enough to understand the story, I told them about their great-grandmother. I told them about the house. I told them about the letters. And most importantly, I told them that Grandma didn't leave me a house, she left me the truth. And that turned out to be worth far more than any property could ever be.